for starting your week with us. Hello and welcome to Business Daily. I'm Lee Ji-yoon in Seoul. Before we get started, let's first get a quick check of today's highlights. President Park Geun-hye promises to step up government services to better communicate with the Korean people as part of the Government 3.0 initiative. Seeing much potential in Myanmar, Korea is actively taking part in helping the country through various aid projects, including planting trees and training local farmers. We have these stories and more coming right up. Korea's tech-led Government 3.0 initiative has been taking hold throughout the country. To that end, the government is holding an expo showing all the results in one place. And President Park Geun-hye, who also attended the expo, said she hoped innovation would make people's lives happier. Our presidential office correspondent Song Ji-sun starts us off.
Government at your fingertips. That's the slogan for the Government 3.0 Expo, held to better help the public understand how the initiative is implemented in their everyday lives. Communication and collaboration has been the key in launching the government's automated immigration system, a simplified annual tax return system, and one-stop services for inheritance matters and childbirth.
정부 3.0의 생활화에 정책의 초점을 맞추고 국민들께서 손끝만으로도 손쉽게 꼭 맞는 서비스를 찾을 수 있도록 정부의 모든 시스템과 제도 혁신을 가속화해 나갈 것입니다.
President Park also vowed smarter administration through cloud computing, Internet of Things, and big data, while allowing the public greater access to those resources.
국민들이 원하는 데이터를 집중 개방해서 일자리 창출과 창업 활성화를 적극 뒷받침하고 창조 경제가 풍성한 결실을 맺을 수 있도록 최선을 다해 지원할 것입니다.
President Park stressed that all innovation must be directed at making a nation where the people are happy, and vowed that her administration will work towards catering customized services for each and every person. Song Ji-sun, Business Daily.
The rise in Korea's public utility rates have stayed in the 2% range every month since October, climbing at a much faster pace than overall consumer inflation. According to data by Statistics Korea and local government bodies, public utility rates rose 2.2% last month on year, while consumer prices only grew by 0.8%. Statistics Korea says last month's jump in bus and subway fares in the Greater Seoul metropolitan area largely contributed to the surge, bringing the country's subway fares up 15.2% compared to the same time last year, while bus fares were up by 9.6%. Hikes in water and sewage fees were also responsible for the overall increase. Water bills crept up 3.1%, while sewage charges jumped 20%. And good news for Korea's semiconductor companies, as the price of DRAM memory chips has stopped falling for the first time in 19 months. Market research firm DRAM Exchange says DDR3 chip spot prices have been recording an upward trend since June 6th. The rise is attributed to increased demand from Chinese smartphone companies and the expected release of Apple's iPhone 7 in September. Korea's Samsung Electronics and SK Hynix, which hold a respective 46% and 27% of the global DRAM market, saw their DRAM sales fall by nearly 17% and 19% respectively in the first quarter of this year. Analysts predict that DRAM prices should stabilize and could even rise starting in the third quarter. And to tell us more about last week and this week's stock market action, we have our Business Daily's markets contributor, Choi Jin-seok, joining us on the phone today. Hello, Jin-seok.
Hello, Jian.
All right, let's get started by looking at the Korean stock market. Tell us about the last day of trade and the market's overall performance last week.
The Kospi rebounded from 6 consecutive declines, closing at 1953 on Friday. Expectations that the UK might stay in the European Union or the EU helped lift overall sentiment among investors. Institutional investors who bought about 60 billion Korean won or $50 million worth of stocks boosted the index as well. Share prices of most blue chip stocks were up, while Samsung Electronics briefly touched its 52-week high during this session. Meanwhile, the Kosdaq fell by 0.2% to close at 678, giving up intraday gains. On a weekly basis, the Kospi plummeted by 3.2% due to fears of Brexit, followed by foreign investors stock selling. The Kosdaq also fell by 3% last week.
Then how did the Korean stock market close on the first day of this week?
The Korean equity market continued its positive trend on the first session of the week. The Kospi rose by 1.4% to close at 1981, while the Kosdaq surged by 1.4% as well. Lower expectations over the Brexit served as the biggest catalyst for the market rally again. Almost all sectors, all blue-chip stocks enjoyed a huge rally. Despite the heavy sell-off by retail investors, buying sprees by institutional investors helped lift the Kospi index. Foreign investors were the only net buyer in the Kosdaq market.
And of course, the UK referendum will be the big question hanging over markets this week.
After months of campaigning and polling, UK voters will finally have their say on Thursday local time. According to the Financial Times, the results of 7 out of 9 polls between June 10 and June 16 were for the exit. But the Brexit vote hangs in the balance after the murder of Labour MP Jo Cox. A survey on Sunday found the Remain camp had opened up a 3 percentage point lead. Experts say the killing could have halted the momentum behind the Leave campaign. Since the risk of Brexit has dominated global market sentiment, we can expect further swings in currencies, bonds, and equities before and after the release of the results. From the perspective of domestic investors, it is somewhat worrisome since foreign investors are expected to be in a wait-and-see mode throughout the week. The outcome of the vote may not be known until early Friday morning or later if the race is tight.
Now, other than the Brexit referendum, what other market events can we expect this week?
After a busy week of data, this week is light on the calendar. U.S. housing numbers, jobless claims, durable goods, and consumer confidence will be released. But the focus will be Fed Chair Janet Yellen's testimony before the Senate Banking Committee on Tuesday. After the Fed kept its interest rates and delivered a slightly dovish statement last Wednesday, which sent equity markets lower, Yellen may try and restore some investor confidence with a more optimistic message during the committee. This has been Choi Jin-seok for Business Daily.
Many countries around the world see Myanmar as a country with capacity to prosper, and Korea has stepped up to help the country tap into that potential. And our Kwon So-wha tells us how Korea's official development assistance program is making a difference there.
These sounds of weaving come from looms operated by the hands of women neglected by society, who call this place, the Women Development Center, home. From the weaving workshop to a retail shop, where traditional attire, bed covers, and other items are sold. And these days, things are better than before. This as volunteers brought their professional methods from Korea, a part of the Korea International Cooperation Agency's aid program.
I'll still remember how happy we were when we saw the products actually being sold.
I believe I can make a living with the skills I learn here if I leave the center one day.
Another way of helping to foster independence, a large focus of Korea's official development assistance projects, can be seen in the passing on of Korea's 1970s Saemaul movement, or rural development model that's based on diligence, self-help, and cooperation.
Saemaul Undong is the bridge between poverty to prosperity.
Strong monsoon rain isn't stopping these residents in this Saemaul pilot village from constructing a drainage system, which is expected to eradicate daily difficulties, including in farming. Roughly 70% in Myanmar make a living through agriculture, as it accounts of 28% of production and 23% of exports.
Myanmar is abundant in vegetables and fruits like this mango. However, we don't know whether this fruit will get into the hands of customers at the market in this fresh form as of yet.
According to the country's agriculture ministry, up to 42% of products are lost due to hazards such as in packaging and preserving. To tackle those issues, KOICA took the initiative in establishing a post-harvest research institute in the capital Naypyidaw earlier this month.
The research results will lead to good quality products, raise competitiveness, and enhance the farmers' income and knowledge.
KOICA will provide almost $23.6 million worth of projects in Myanmar this year. By comparison, Japan's ODA amounts to roughly $200 million.
Although we cannot give as much aid as countries like the US, China, or Japan, we can deliver our development experience as we ourselves eradicated poverty and learn how to live well. That's our key strategy.
KOICA says while more aid goes into Vietnam as of now, soon Myanmar will rank on top, as the country is seen to have enough potential to outgrow its status as an emerging economy like Korea. Kwon So-ah, Business Daily, Naypyidaw.
The digital signage industry using LCD and LED technologies to display digital content is growing quickly. The Korea Economic Research Institute says the industry is expected to create about 70,000 new jobs by 2020 and an estimated $8.7 billion in industry output. The institute says digital signage is also increasing the gap between companies that have incorporated the technology and those that have not. Now, the ad volume for companies that used digital signage in their physical and mobile productions tripled during the 3 years leading up to 2015. But it was the opposite story for companies that relied solely on print advertising, which saw their ad volume drop 9% during the same period. After 7 years of hard work, Korea will be able to harvest its first locally produced olives this October, a fruit that's typically produced in subtropical regions like the Mediterranean. And along with olives, many more subtropical crops are being cultivated as the country's climate grows warmer and warmer. Our Lee Ju-young has the story.
On Korea's southern Jeju Island, continuous efforts are being made to grow and harvest subtropical crops by the National Institute of Horticultural and Herbal Science. With temperatures in the country having increased roughly 1.8 degrees over the last century, almost twice the world's average, producing fruits like papaya has become a reality.
I think it would be incredibly popular if we could produce papayas that can be consumed as vegetables, not fruit. We've also developed a cultivation technology that lets us plant in the spring and harvest the same year without applying heat.
The state-run institute says 8 types of fruits and 10 varieties of vegetables are currently being cultivated in areas as big as 58 and 255 hectares, respectively. It adds, by 2020, roughly 40,000 tons worth of crops are predicted to be consumed, which would push up the cultivation area to over 1,000 hectares. Experts say these efforts to develop more subtropical produce come as part of preparations for a change in Korea's agricultural makeup in the future. By 2050, estimates put the country's temperatures at 3.2 degrees higher than current levels. They add that by then, most regions in Korea besides landlocked regions will turn subtropical. Another state-run institute, the Agricultural Research and Extension Services of Jeju Province, has also embarked on a mission to adapt to climate change by investing roughly $106,000 for the development and dissemination of new cultivation technologies. Lee Ju-young, Business Daily.
And that wraps it up for today, but we'll be back tomorrow with more business news that matters to you. So don't forget to tune in then. Thanks for watching and goodbye.